So with that, there are two aspects of this discussion to frame it up, and one of them is the Chinese proverb that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and that is, may we live in interesting times, may you come to the attention of those in authority, and may you find what it is you're looking for. May we live in interesting times means a critical point in time when choices are made that change the future, for either better or worse. And living in interesting times can also be either a blessing or a curse. There is no question that we know that libraries are certainly living in interesting times. The second piece of the proverb, I could have the Pope here since we know who that is this morning, but the second piece of the proverb is, may you come to the attention of those in authority. And what that means is in times of crisis, people can be more willing to come together and work through and with their government, and at the same time expect their government to serve the common good. And the last of this proverb is that may you find what it is that you're looking for. And that also suggests that we don't always know what we want, or that we think what it is that we want, we do want. On the other hand, it also can bring great opportunities in the time of crisis to bring about the fundamental changes that we really need to create a better future. I think the latter is a more accurate description of where we are in interesting times, that there's never been a more promising time to invest energy, intellect, and funding in building and sustaining the value of libraries in creating community. Not just being in community, but creating community. A copy of the 2012 annual report that you all have with you today, which is hot off the press. This is the first copy out. It's a record of going in the right direction for finding what it is that we're looking by doing and creating community and to add value with library services. It's the record that tells us, may you find what it is you're looking for. And we have, through strategic planning, as all of you are aware of and familiar with, our mission statement. I can easily remember the mission statement, and I think of it often. Anticipate, build, and connect. And it happens throughout the day, and it is, I also believe, what it is we're looking for. To go along with that, the values that we have make this mission statement real in all of our day-to-day interactions, to empower library users, to engage change and address challenges, and yet honor traditions, and to have a passion for what it is that we do. In these interesting times, our mission and values are dependent on each of us being in a leadership role. Let me say that again. In these interesting times, our mission and values are dependent upon each of us being in a leadership role. And Lincoln's leadership has obviously been predominant in the media. In the biography, Doris Goodwin Kern, in her book, she identifies Lincoln's leadership style as navigating between his allies and his enemies. Does that sound familiar in election season, Mayor? So here's the way that navigating between allies and enemies and what that means. Engagement with the heavyweights, the thinkers, the doers, the strong-willed, the forthright individuals that don't insulate each other from uncomfortable but important dissent. And there is no question that this mayor makes that happen in the sense of put things on the table. The second aspect, and we've talked about this in a number of ways, most recently, beginning last fall in our succession planning, and that is that people are capable of taking over other jobs. And what also Lincoln did, and how she described his categories of leadership, is that you have to have the emotional intelligence to learn from your mistakes, to share the responsibilities of others and their mistakes, and to not hold grudges. I think those three aspects of Lincoln's leadership certainly resonates within our culture and within our organization as a whole. So what does this mean in the practicality of things? Some of the challenges and opportunities for this type of leadership that we all have a responsibility and accountability to, and as stated in the Chinese proverb, are facing libraries throughout the country. We certainly don't live in a vacuum by what it is that we do. And we are certainly in the knowledge economy. And I would say knowledge economy versus the information economy, because things have aggregated, things have become more complicated. And the ability to use that information in a manner that makes a difference is why the knowledge economy has shown in research and will also be discussed by others in this address as to what it means that libraries are facing throughout the country. The current president of the American Library Association, Maureen Sullivan, she has as her presidential initiative, Libraries Transforming Communities. This is my interpretation of looking through the research, talking with you, thinking about where the future takes us, what it means for libraries transforming communities. Being relevant to all of the community through innovation, engagement, and in particular, their experiences, what they think, and how we make that connection. Rebranding themselves through digital fluency. That's different than literacy. Literacy is the building blocks, got to have that. But if we're going to be relevant in the knowledge economy, we have to have fluency. And that means by learning and information that goes beyond just being about books, which we certainly have that reputation. But there are many libraries and many examples that I have concerns about what libraries will look like in 5 years from now. So rebranding yourself to go beyond just books, and in particular, sharing spaces with connection to diversity and to ideas. Strategic partnerships. We do that, we can do more. That we create community through customer service of embedded librarians. How many, just by show of hand, and it's not a test, how many of you have heard that term, embedded librarians? Okay? Pay attention to that term. It's a word and a language that you already know, but in practicality there are not as many examples that there need to be. And certainly the Knowledge Network and ebooks at the circulation desk are examples of what it means to be embedded librarians. But I want to challenge you to think of taking it to the next level. Instead of going to, we need to go to community instead of just participating in community. And what that means for each of you in that regard. A service delivery model that engages, I have the word bring your own device, but I'd actually just simply restate it and say use your own device. And I think many of you have experiences from unwrap the ebook, from someone giving you the box, to someone with their mobile cell phone taking a look at the applications that we have online. I think we just most recently had app training. So bring and use your own devices. And finally, librarians facilitating civic engagement as research and reference experts for stakeholders, public officials, and advocates for community issues. So what I'd like to do now is have the next presenters come up, Jason and Lucy, and talk about digital collections in circulation, and then I have one slide at the end as closing remarks. So, Lucy and Jason? It's just Lucy. Wow, I didn't help you out any, Lucy. Jason could have jumped aboard this bandwagon. That would have been fine. As most of you know, I am not much of one to speak in public, so this is a giant leap of faith for me. So bear with me if I have a case of stutters or anything. But good morning, by the way. I'm going to be talking to you about digital collections and what the library has done in 2012. Of course, I'm following Greta, and that's a tough act to follow, but we have done a lot of things. Next slide, please, in 2012. This is taking a look at 5 of the major things, which would be Ask a Librarian, which has increased greatly because of an increased awareness in the community that it's available, and the use of mobile devices and texting to be able to ask librarians what is happening and answer questions. And also the widget is on both the library website and the city website. And you can click across those to see the graph as it's changed from year to year. The databases also have had steadily growing over the years. And new additions were added in 2012. And then you can click on social networking, please. You can see the trends there, steady growth also. We've got everything from Flickr to Facebook, Twitter. So if you're not engaged in that, how come? It's the in thing. You can also check the library's YouTube, and you can see some staff that maybe shouldn't be performers, but they're trying. And on a serious note, we do have some excellent podcasts and YouTubes of programs that happened here, so if people missed those, they can also watch those. All right, downloadable books, we'll take a look at that one. And of course, you can see that that has increased dramatically, probably over half over the year. There were 56,000 circs in 2012 of downloadable books. And I don't think a day goes by that we don't have a question about e-readers now. So we know that that's happening. And every Christmas it gets more because people are getting those for Christmas presents. Not maybe because they wanted to, but then they decide that, hey, it's not such a bad thing. So, okay, digital archives. This includes information. As you can see, it's had very rapid growth, and I think that we had a lot of help from volunteers scanning items. These have come from the police and city departments and some older library preserved items. And you can go on. And there's the information about ebooks. As you scan down, you'll see the 56,000 that were borrowed in 2012. And so the bottom line is that the trend is for print to decrease and electronic to increase. And there's another slide. Continue on. And if you click on 2012, you can see a slight growth, and it's just going to go from there, as we all know. And continue. And if you're not on a social networking site, realize that even cats do it, so you've got to get on board. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the database popularity between the 3 years. And you can click on those in succession and see how they change. Basically, bottom line, it's children's that takes up the biggest portion of the database use, followed by genealogy, history, and biography. And I think that is the end of my slide. Go ahead and go one more. I think we're into social networking. Yes?
Real quick question.
Sure.
Children's books, is that Tumble Book?
It's Tumble Books, yes. Yeah. So, and then there is the steady growth of our digital media. As you can see from 2007, leaps and bounds.
One more slide. I think we're on to social networking, so I'm going to let Rebecca take over. Thank you.
So we've got a little video here of our newest resident in the aviary doing his thing. He's very popular on our Facebook page. I'm basically just going to talk a little bit about social networking and civic engagement in the library. Social networking is no longer just about selling our services, but about sharing the library experience with the community. It's about finding common interests with people in our community. It's about staying relevant in a digital world, and about meeting digital generations on their own turf, which is something we're doing now. You'll take a look at this graph here, and you can see our proportion of physical to virtual patron contacts and how they've grown over the last number of years. 2012 marking the very first year when more than 50% of all of our patron contacts were virtual. So it's just a matter of time before I will be working at home in my pajamas. We've also got our overall social networking page views here. Of course, the popularity of the different networks ebbs and flows. I'm pretty sure it's driven by teenagers. That's my theory. But you can see they all have grown over the past 3 years. We've done well on all fronts there. Community relationships are obviously a very important thing to libraries. It's an important part of who we are and what we do. The library has made significant progress in 2012 on several long-term projects, the 72 Flood Wiki and our oral history interviews, as well as the Black Hills Knowledge Network. The Knowledge Network grew both in size in the archives and the website, as well as added new partners. In 2012, we added Oglala Lakota College, Somerset, and Piedmont to our partnerships this year. And we can take a look here for the past couple years. It's broken down by quarter. This one here is the KN page views, which has increased steadily. And our second one is our archive views, which has grown enormously, as Lucy demonstrated in a previous graph. Very, very popular archive website there, and we have been getting views from other countries as well, which I think none of us expected. In 2012, the Black Hills Knowledge Network added almost 700 new items, new posts, new content for people to take a look at. That doesn't include the archives. The archives would be about 1,000 more. Okay, so a little further. The first photograph there was just the Black Hills Knowledge Network, one of their community forums. We hosted 3 of those in 2012, which got good attendance. We also, you see, this is my favorite picture of the whole presentation, Joe. Isn't she cute? But the YouTube and podcasting team added 100 new library videos and podcasts in 2012, including story times, educational programs, musical guests. This is my dog, Bo. The Facebook team decided to hold one of our first contests. The theme was teaching pets to read. I was unsuccessful. But it was very popular with the community. Yeah, he's cute. He's real cute. And then I'm going to need the words on this one. This is Lisa's slide. She gave me verbatim instructions on what to tell you about what she's done. She's golden. The teens enjoyed a new program each month, plus gaming days, and a new teen blog on Tumblr, one of the most popular social media sites for the under 25 crowd. Obviously, this makes us very hip. And the teens have really enjoyed what's here for them this year. It's obvious that we've really refreshed that program. And I'm going to end you with a little quote here before I turn you over to Lorinda. Change is happening rapidly. Let libraries continue to be at the center of it. I think we have been, and I think we continue to be at the center.
To speak with you about community spaces. The perspective I'm actually going to be sharing with you is an outside one because I've only worked here for a few weeks, so you're actually going to get to hear from a patron. So after I've shared my point of view, you're going to have an opportunity to describe community spaces from your insider perspective and what we need to do to make that happen. So the first time I ever walked in this library was 2007, and I can honestly say I was quite in awe from that first moment. Not only were the collections the largest I've ever seen, but there was a coffee shop in the library, and I could actually take my coffee in the stacks. I was so used to libraries being so strict about what we could do amongst the books. So I walked around, I marveled at what I saw, and then I went to Desk A to sign up for a library card. And I peppered that very patient desk person with questions because I had never seen self-checkout before. I'd never heard of online renewals or holds, and I'd never heard of no limits to how many items I could check out. So this was just revolutionary for me. I can easily say from that first day that I had felt that I'd found a haven in this new home of mine. Everywhere else I had ever gone just felt strange and new to me, and I just instantly felt like this is it. And then wouldn't you know, not even 5 months later, I was delighted and validated to find that my favorite newspaper, USA Today, agreed with my perspectives about this library. So, libraries have always been a very fundamental part of my life, but I have to say that Rapid City Public Libraries has been the most significant and utilized by me because from the very beginning, this library has been relevant to my needs and continues to strive to remain so. And as an avid patron, I have seen this library evolve more in the past 5 years than I've seen my hometown libraries evolve in my lifetime. And that makes me very excited about what's to come. So, enough about what I think. Let's hear what you think. And so what I'm going to do is facilitate an open dialogue with you all about community spaces. And this will be a very public exercise on how well I know your names. So, all right. Let's hear about community spaces. Who would like to give me some feedback here? Don't be shy. That's how I got up here.
What's your real question about community spaces?
Can you describe this community space?
Can I describe it?
Yes.
It's a hub. People who are trying to get together with groups will actually be like, well, let's just meet at the downtown library because you live on the east side, I live on the west side, and it's in the middle. Okay. And it seems like a good place for us to meet together and discuss, have a girls' day, have tutoring.
Okay.
So it's a hub, it's a community.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, the gauntlet was thrown for Girls' Day. Let's hear the other side.
Great. Well,
I think you're not a parent person to say this.
okay. Yes.
And also as a young mother, seeing from experience, when my children were little, and it's one of the reasons I got into the storytime thing, is that there's a point in your life where you just need adults to talk to. And adults, if you see them in story time, the children will play, but then the adults are saying, oh, another person. And talking about going out to So it becomes a place for sanity among young mothers to see that they're not alone in the world. It's a very small part of the library, but it happens 3 times a week at various locations now, and you see them coming in, and the children run to each other, and the mothers are going, oh, another adult around me, but I just want to. And it happens right here.
Those children are like to expand a little bit just because, especially on Tuesday, right before story time, I never knew how exciting the library was until this little boy came into the library and he got in the doors and he saw some other kids there and he just like came to pieces. It was like,
So an exciting, happy place to be for all ages. All right.
Oh, talking about children, I just have to share this story. It may be a little inappropriate, but not really, because it gave 3 adults a huge chuckle. Rhonda and I were working the front desk one day. She was taking a library card, and there was a mom and son checking books in. And all of a sudden, loud and clear, you heard him say, "Do we have to give back everybody poops?"
Have you never seen a greater thing than what she did yesterday with Lisa and Susan covered with paint and all these kids coming in line to use the computer? It was like paint all over. It was great. You would have had to see all these kids and their Easter families. So,
Great. Good stories. Okay.
because I talked about social media for individual services, of course, we have to look at that as a community.
Yes,
That's growing.
definitely.
Yes. Outside the walls.
Yes.
I think of flexibility, because I hear these things about, you know, the children's joy and paint all over the hands and the computers and the different programs and the collections we have, but yet people come to us for serious research or for, you know, light entertainment, escapism, and, you know, it has to be a flexible collection of services to be able to provide that diversity of resources.
Since I've only been here a little over a year, I've told other patrons that if you're trying to make friends, like they were saying with the younger crowds, with the babies and the kids, and trying to hang out with other adults, if I see the mother come in with 2 or 3 kids, I let her know, you want to make some friends, come to the library. And I actually got 2 patrons talking to each other, and they seemed to be fast friends by the time they were leaving. So it is a place to make friends as well.
All right.
also a place of diversity. A lot of us are not from Rockford.
Yeah.
So well, patrons as well as staff. We need a wide variety from all centuries, but on the whole process and all different backgrounds.
Great
So,
job. All right, and I saw some hands over here.
I guess what I was going to say had a lot to do with that. You know, I work the front desk, and I don't know how many people realize that this is one of the very first stops that people come, who are beginning to make themselves part of our community. It's one
It
of the
was
first
mine,
stops they
yes.
make. Yeah, because and one of the things they'll do is they'll look around and kind of get an idea of what Rapid City is all about. Because they'll like, oh, nice books, and you have this, and blah about that. And so it is where a lot of people begin to orient themselves.
I'd also say from working the desk, a lot of times it's where people go when they don't know who to ask. Because you get a lot of different questions. So even from our city website, you get them. So if they have a question and they're not really sure who can help, sometimes we're the first one they find. Where do I go from here? How do you have
Yeah.
this information?
I know that when I was new in the area and looking for a job, I contacted this library for help with getting my resume out there, so yes.
It's also a stop for tourists. We're a big tourist stop. I mean, everything from checking an email to asking us what the best place to eat is to where can I find a cheap campground. I mean, we all year round, there's people visiting the Black Hills, especially in the summer. tourist-related questions all the time. So we are a place, I think, in the community where the people who are coming from all over the world know they can get internet access and they can get questions asked about this area.
Yes.
Entertainment. I have parents who didn't really, they don't come in and check anything out, but I started writing into Susan's concert series and all their talks and stuff, and they love it.
Good. All right.
We have a geocache site, and last year we had over 50 people come and log into our geocache site.
How about a place to relax?
Definitely.
Or do crafts. How many people have you seen beading and drawing here? Lots of them.
Or knitting.
Knitting, that knit group, that's
Wrapping Christmas presents. Last year, the year before, we had, there was people that were doing, I don't know if it was for a charity or what, they brought in, they booked one of the study rooms and brought in this truck of presents and wrapping material, and there's like 2 or 3 of them that sat there and wrapped presents for a couple hours.
You should have got a piece of that in me, I'm surprised.
We've got big tables. Tables.
I would just add too, some of you may have noticed that I have this stand-up desk now, and century summary, but it is truly a reward to be able to watch every day all of the traffic that is really all of community. It is fascinating to me. I don't know of any other place in the city where, one, people have a choice to come in. And when I say come here, I'm talking about 3 libraries. They have a choice to do that. Secondly, I can't think of any other place where I would say Summer Nights is the next example where you see all of community. And that is really a gift to be able to work in a position like this.
And especially someplace where they can stay. They don't have to come in and leave, do some sort of business and leave. They can stay.
There's no time limit. A lot of things in today's world, there's a restraint on how long you can do something, or just trying to get there on time. This is one of the places that time doesn't really have to have a meaning.
Except for when we close.
Don't get it started. Don't get it started. That's not part of your remarks, Mayor.
Great.
Where else can you come and, be a gardener, a home brewer, a rock collector, interested in the environment, the pine beetle issue? Susan's Community Voices is just, as a librarian who loves information, I learned a lot from what she has brought in, and we collect all this together.
Anybody else? What do you think, Dee? Is it word cloud time, or?
Should I create?
Sure.
All right.
Check. No, check it.
Next is Library Board Chair Rob Pettigrew.
I'm not as tech savvy as the rest of you, so you're going to have to put up with a good old-fashioned, what'd you say, Greta, 95-minute talk here? 45 minutes, I'll give you a bathroom break here. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm the current board chairman for the Rapid City Library Board of Trustees. I'm honored to be in that position. We do have Mary Ann Rohr here with the library board. Jim Olson is here, and Monty Lose as well. Just going to kind of ramble on here with a few things. I've been asked often, you know, why did I get involved in the library? I own and operate a business. I work 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. My wife says, you know, you don't have time for that. Business people ask me, what are you doing trying to step up and get involved and be the next mayor? Don't worry, Sam. There's no ambitions for that. I got enough issues to take care of. If you got problems, try dealing with a customer who can see her carpet seam and is upset. So I did serve in a capacity maybe a couple years ago on the billboard task force. And if you want to jump into a lion's den, get involved in something like that. Nasty phone calls, nasty letters, but after it's all said and done, I kind of enjoy just being involved in the community. Going back a few years, when I was just a little tyke, the library that I went to, I think it's 6th in Kansas City. It's an architectural firm now. I remember going in there was no place to sit, to my knowledge. The stacks were very close. They were probably 9 feet tall, at least they seemed that tall to me. And my mother would take me down there to get books to read. You couldn't do homework down there. You couldn't really do any research because there was no place to hang out. After I got married, I had a couple of great daughters, and I remember bringing them down here. I think those days they had not as many events going on. I think they had a couple of pajama events and puppet shows and people strumming guitars and whatnot. But I was really involved in their stuff. Going through school, they did homework down here, research down here. I was one of those patrons who sat down here with my children, and while they were researching, I was in the corner sleeping because I was tired and worn out. So after I got off this task force committee, I was looking for something else to do, not necessarily the library, but it came up, applied to that position, good or bad. The mayor put me on that committee. And I just always thought as the library as a very positive, upbeat place. It's a beacon in Rapid City. With all the issues going on in city, county, state, federal government, I've always just thought the library is one place where people can get away from all that tension. There's hope, there's things to do, there's activities down here, so it's a very positive environment. So that's why I kind of got involved in the library. I've been very happy to serve, and I hope I can continue to meet the expectations of the position I'm in now. A little bit about the board. As you know, or maybe you don't know, every year 1 or 2 people rotate off the board generally, and 1 or 2 new people come on. I think that's good. We have Jim Olson and Monty, who've got quite a history of being on the board. They've been on there quite some time. We value their input. We're looking forward to the next couple of years, some issues coming up, and they've kind of been through some of those tough issues, so they're good advisors for us. But I also like it when new people come on, you get a whole different view of things. We have a couple board members who have children that use the library, so we're seeing what their input is. Mary Ann used to work here, so we're taking direction from her as well. So I think the board, with people moving in and out, is good. We're always getting new ideas. We're getting people who I think see the vision of the library. And I want you to know the board really wants to support you guys. We think you do a great job. I'm, like I said earlier, not a real tech savvy guy. So at some of these meetings, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball. In fact, I got this damn iPad mini, and I do some speaking with my business, talking about fibers and whatnot, so I've used it a time or 2 on that, but someone's going to have to tell me how to get all this high-tech stuff behind us on that. I really want to express appreciation from myself and the library board for you folks. You do a great job, whether it's paid staff, volunteers, the foundation, the friends. Without each and every one of you, things will slip through the cracks, and I think each and every one of you do an outstanding job. In the past, I've worked with Carlos when we've done some flooring projects down here, and I've always been amazed. Don't take this wrong, Mr. Mayor, but for a government agency, how well they work. And that's, hats off to Carlos. It's just great to be associated with this institution, and I just want you folks to know that the board appreciates everything you do. And I think in our board meetings, correct me wrong, if I'm wrong, gentlemen and Mary Ann, we're always amazed at what the library does. Last but not least, I want to thank Greta for all her work. She just leads a great ship down here, and I think she's led us into the new world. And as previously mentioned, we're kind of the leaders in this age, and I think Greta should be recognized for her leadership as well. Last but not least, I'd just like to share a few comments with you. Some of you may or may not know I tend to do a fair amount of, I'll call it adventure travel. And just 2 weeks ago I got back from Tanzania with my daughter, and we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about me, probably not, probably don't care, but bear with me a few minutes here. I hate camping. Cannot stand it. For me, camping is going to Holiday Inn Express without an indoor heated swimming pool. That's camping. And as I'm aging, I hate the cold weather. Can't stand it. So I started planning this trip about 2 years ago. My mother asked me, my wife has asked me, why would you want to do that? You can't stand camping. You never go with us as a family when we camp, and you can't stand cold weather. Well, for me, it was a mental challenge. I'm a runner, and I wanted to do something that would kind of push my limits. So I set a goal. Shields reaped the benefits of me buying a hell of a lot of equipment. But I did the hike. It took us 6 days to get up there. Sometime if you want to be bored, I'll show you my pictures. And we had to camp for 6 nights, and it was rough camping. Let me tell you, we had porters that carried all of our stuff, broke camp down. We got to the next camp, they had it all set up, but it was still not a Holiday Inn Express, let me tell you. And it was cold. Every night we sat in a cold tent shivering. Every morning we got up shivering, eating breakfast and eating dinner. Every night when I went to bed, shivering in my $250 sleeping bag, trying to stay warm, I said, I've got 4 more nights so I can get through this. So the last night, about 11 o'clock, they got us out of bed for the summit up to the top. And at the night before, my daughter, and we had another woman traveling with us from New England, and we were all sitting there looking at our food, and none of us were eating. And I said, now I know what the astronauts feel like before they blast off. We did not know what was going to await us the next morning. So we started the summit at midnight, full moon, clear sky, and our guide asked us to turn our headlamps off. And he said, just follow my footsteps, and the person behind you follow those footsteps. So for 6 hours, pitch black, all we were supposed to do was look at the person's footsteps ahead of us. I now know why, because when we came down, we went past things that if we would have saw, we never would have done. I got to the top, and I hugged my daughter and cried. It was an amazing feat. Coming down, there were people laying in the path who were in the fetal position. I mean, I don't know if they died or what. There were people in stretchers. When I got back to camp, called my wife, who I don't know if any of you know, Karen Pettigrew. She's been a midwife in town for years. She's delivered 1,000+ babies. And I cried when I talked to her. She just laughed at me. She said, now you know what women feel like when they give birth. The point of my story is we have to set goals. And that was a huge goal for me. My next goal that I've set already, I'm a runner. I've run half marathons. I'm going to run a marathon by the end of the year. And I just challenge each of you to set personal goals. They don't have to be grand. You can set a goal to gain 10 pounds. You can set a goal to lose 10 pounds. The library is very supportive in supporting you in furthering your education. But I just ask each of us, every one of us, to set a goal, make it reachable, and tell a few friends about it so they can encourage you. And then when you reach it, let us all know what your goal was, and we will rejoice with you. Thanks again for the time.
Good morning. Did you notice how Lorinda, where are you, Lorinda, said a little bit ago that the USA Today is her favorite newspaper? And you know what that means? It means Rapid City Journal is not. Okay. I think we're going to get along very well. I grew up on a small family farm in northwest Iowa, a little town of Boyden, famous only for its zip code, 51234. And I grew up in the midst of the farm crisis. And in the early 1980s, my parents nearly lost the family farm had it not been for my grandmother's assistance and my dad getting a job off the farm as a mail carrier for the most famous zip code in the country. We would have lost the farm. 2 buildings down from the post office in Boyden was and is the library. Actually, it was right next door then. Now it's been moved 2 buildings down. But the library opened doors for me, major doors. When I was younger, I was born with cerebral palsy, relatively minor case. Most people that have CP are in wheelchairs. But I relearned how to walk when I was 22 years old. And prior to that time, I never had canes or crutches or wheelchairs, but I walked with a very severe scissors gait. And so sports was out for me, and I read a lot. And I spent a tremendous amount of time in the library, and interlibrary alone for a town the size of Boyden was a big deal. So I read the entire Little House on the Prairie series, the Happy Hollisters, the Bobbsey Twins, Nancy Drew, Encyclopedia Brown, the Hardy Boys, the whole series. And then as I got older, Giants in the Earth, I was fascinated by that book, To Kill a Mockingbird. And now I like Tom Clancy and John Grisham and the city budget. I absolutely love history. Looking out to my left where that white trailer is, on that spot in August 2, 1927, Calvin Coolidge stood and issued the famous 10-word statement, "I do not choose to run for president," in 1928. And for weeks afterwards, there were Model Ts and Model As around town that had signs in the windows that said, "I do not choose to run." And it's true. And also, one of my other favorite presidents, because he's someone that everybody in public service can learn a lot from. His name is William Henry Harrison, and his current permanent residence is by the old post office. And in 1841, he was inaugurated as president in the cold Washington weather, and he talked too much. And a month later, he died. And I think everybody in public service can learn a lot from that. You talk too much, and you die. My daughters are huge fans of this library, and Karen delivered 2 of our daughters. Karen Pettigrew did, but our daughters are big fans of the library, and so am I. And it isn't Greta or I that keep this place going, although she's very important and more important than me, but it's you that are the nucleus and the engine of this institution. What I really love about what's happening in the library is I love the Knowledge Network. I love the fact that we're now moving into the 21st century while still being able to go back to the 15th century in a millisecond if that's what we want to do. I never heard the term embedded librarian until this morning. As a Matt Damon fan, and watching all the Bourne Identity movies, I know what an embedded agent is, but I'm not familiar with an embedded librarian, so I'm going to have to work on that one. Rapid City is booming, and I want to share something with you, because in an hour, everybody's going to know, and there's two places that know exactly what's going on. That's the library, and I'm sure that I leaked it to my daughters this morning. I'm sure all of Wilson Elementary knows by now, but I figured it was okay because the announcement's in an hour. But I'm headed up to the Hilton Garden Inn in a little while, and Monty Hartle and his group have acquisitioned a Wisconsin Dells type water park from Illinois, and they're bringing it to Rapid City. And I told Ellie, my 10-year-old, this morning, I said, this thing is 6 times the size of Waikiki. And her eyes were and I said, yes, you can tell your school, and I'm sure they all found out right away this morning. We also have WL Plastics that's come in, a $5 million permit that was pulled just the other day, a $15 million permit for the Gateway Apartments, and $30 million in permits in February, and it's not even leap year, only 28 days in February, and we had $30 million worth of building permits, most of them private sector. In January we had $22 million in permits, but $14 million of it was a public sector grading permit for DOT. But what's happening in February is absolutely stunning. My philosophy when I was at Golden West and at Gateway Computers and as mayor is that employees are my number one asset and my number one customer. And the philosophy is very simple, because if you treat your employees with dignity and respect, then they'll treat your customers well, and then you'll be successful. And so you are my number one asset and my number one customer. And Greta and I, especially Greta, we both have strong personalities. Anybody knows that? Greta has a strong personality. But we both love this library, and we enjoy working together. And I want to tell you this, that when I was at Golden West, I had an employee come into my office one day, and they were ready to hand in their badge and quit. And they had a whole laundry list of things that they were upset about. And I said to this person, I said, you know what? I said, I like to think I'm a smart guy, but I do not have ESP. And if you have a concern or a problem, you have to tell me what's going on. And I reminded them of this. I told them the story of when I was growing up, and I was working at Hy-Vee food store in Sheldon, Iowa, where there's a helpful smile in every aisle. And I wasn't feeling very helpful or smiling one day, and I came home griping about it. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, this job sucks. And he said, I would never forget what he said. He said, well, you can go look on the other side of the fence, but just remember the grass is brown everywhere. I never forgot that. And you know what? There's brown spots here too. This isn't a perfect place to work. There are definitely problems. But you know what? You have a management team that is committed to addressing those problems when they come up. We recently had an issue with someone with a knife, and I think that the security protocols, from what I understand from the review that's been done, the security protocols worked. You all did a great job in handling that. The review is continuing on how long we have security, or maybe even looking at a liaison officer like what we have for the schools, and that will require a cooperation with the police department and your board and the budget process. But I want to thank you for all you do for this library. And if you have any concerns at all, please talk to Greta, please talk to myself. We're both bright people, but neither of us have ESP. So thank you very much for all you do. Have a great day.
What I would conclude with is, obviously, as remarks have been said, that it isn't about one person. It's about all of us. And it's about what we all bring to the table. And it's about how we respond to the community from their experiences and how we make that relevant for the long term. So, I love this picture. It's exactly as the mayor said. We're moving, we're in the 21st century, but we have the ability to look back and learn from what works and not make the mistakes that didn't for the future. So I'd leave you with this thought. The third aspect of the Chinese proverb, may you find what you're looking for, is my challenge to you as individuals and collectively as an organization, because I know that the ambitions and the anticipated results from the board, the staff, the mayor, the council, the community can in fact transform library experiences, library services, and create community. But here's the key. Transformation is very much about how we all relate to each other, how we relate to the community, and how we respond on a global level. Thank you.